The following program is a production of Pioneer Public Television.
In this episode of Postcards.
What is really profound is just how the smallest conversations with people can lead to something really, really huge like this, and just get the community having fun together and imagining what's possible.
I was thinking, oh, what do we get them for a gift? And I'm like, I'll just bring my paints and my easel along, and maybe I can whip something up at their wedding. Let's give it a try.
Un honor.
It's an honor.
Traer el arte.
To bring Afro-Uruguayan art.
Acá, Montevideo,
to
Minnesota.
Montevideo, Minnesota.
This program on Pioneer Public Television is funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund, with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4, 2008. Additional support provided by Mark and Margaret Yekel Julien in honor of Shalom Hill Farm, a nonprofit rural education retreat center in a beautiful prairie setting near Windham in southwestern Minnesota. ShalomHillFarm.org. The Arrowwood Resort and Conference Center, your ideal choice for Minnesota resorts, offering luxury townhomes, 18 holes of golf, Darling Reflection Spa, Big Splash Water Park, and much more. Alexandria, Minnesota, a relaxing vacation or great location for an event. Explore alex.com. Easy to get to, hard to leave.
One cannot erase history because history is a part of our life. And it's where we can think of it as helping us to better ourselves in the future. And for me, it's taking the negative things that happened to me in my life and putting more positive things in my life.
So we are at the Fergus Falls State Hospital, which is otherwise known as the Kirkbride building around here, and it is the Kirkbride Arts and History weekend. Imagine Fergus Falls is a partnership between Springboard for the Arts, the Friends of the Kirkbride, which is a grassroots advocacy organization, the Otter Tail County Historical Society, the Fergus Falls Economic Improvement Commission, and Place-Based Productions. And this Imagine Fergus Falls is really an attempt to look at the past and future of the Fergus Falls State Hospital through arts engagement, so through creative placemaking, theater, storytelling. The highlight of the weekend is the Kirkbride Cycle, which is a musical theater production that we partnered on with Place-Based Productions. It's been going on all afternoon, and we have about 500 people coming out to see it today.
We spent about a year researching and holding interviews, story circles, one-on-one with groups, doing historical research, and everything that we gathered, all of the stories, all of the information, we used to inform the script for the Kirkbride Cycle. The cast is made up of over 50 local performers that have been involved rehearsing for about the last 6 weeks, and we've had an amazing time with everybody. The experience has really been out of this world. Watching the connections between the cast to each other, but also to this place, has been a really magical experience. And we're really grateful to have been invited to come and share this story.
When you become admitted to the RTC here, you were called a resident here and not a patient, it just made you feel a lot more welcome, a lot more acceptable with your diagnosis. I am affiliated with the Kirkbride. In 1968, I was able to become involved with a volunteer program through the Lutheran Church here, and I stayed in the geriatrics for the summer, and I got to know the residents here. Then in 1972 was my first hospitalization here at the RTC. And periodically I was hospitalized until 1980 was my last one. I was here at one time, and I've really worked at coming here. I've got some time to go to here too. I'm not at that point where I'm all well yet.
In addition to the Kirkbride cycle, we have different artists that are set up doing activities throughout the day. We have some food vendors, and there's going to be a street dance tonight featuring some local musicians. But we also did a call for art that really surprised us, actually. We had a call out for about a month, and what happened was many people not only created new works for this exhibit that we did called Essence of Memory in Space, but we also had some people approach us that had artwork from former patients.
And it was unbelievable how I've actually gotten into contact with people who had patient work that they actually saved from garbage cans up here and also the dumpsters. And they've been saving them in their homes and storing them. And this was actually a celebration time where they could bring them out again and have them on display and have these paintings and also sculptures that we have found be on display for the community to see what was made up here at the Kirkbride building. And not only that, we also had other artists who are photographers, painters, and also sculptors as well, have made work about the Kirkbride, not even knowing about this exhibition we were putting together. So there was work already made about the Kirkbride, and that's where we came up with the concept for it.
I worked here, I started in '78. Quite a place to learn how to get to places. I remember when I first started, always getting lost and stuff. But I worked here for 20 years. I love this building, I love this place. It was very inspirational to me as far as artwork. I've done some that are direct and about the place, and then non-direct. The rescue is about a fish rescuing a man. It's kind of the other way around. It's like we swim in the ocean of life, and sometimes something comes along that gives us help that we didn't see coming. And I saw this place as a place for people that were not wanted on the outside, and it became a community. This kind of reflects that type of philosophy.
This building has been a part of my life, and I know the history of it, and I also know people who have worked up here, and I also know patients who have lived up here. They are my friends, they're my colleagues as well, and for me, this is a place where life can live again. I'm going to say that. Life can live again, where there can be the arts involved with that, being through people who are making work about the place, people who can come up here and actually experience their own experience up here. Yes, it was a mental institution at one point, but also it was a place where it was a home to many other people who used to live here.
I have a postcard that's 1910, and it's a postcard of this place, and it's on the front it says "State Asylum for the Insane." Now, that's pretty harsh words. That has all changed, and things have softened up. There's still a lot of ways to go, and but I think this play is about that, you know, showing that these people are people too. You know, they probably are different than us in some ways, but they belong to the community, just as we all do.
There's a kind of a narrative in town that this building is haunted, but mental health care is a very complex thing, and what the stories tell in this performance is stories of human beings, just trying to figure out how to empathize with each other, how to relate and imagine themselves in other people's footsteps, and that's hard for anybody. So I think the people coming to see this play are the hospital is coming back to life again, and they're seeing this really wasn't that long ago that this was happening, that this place was a thriving, self-sustaining community, and bad things did happen here, but it was a place of healing as well.
I want to actually see this building continue and to show to my community that it is still a vibrant place that can create more opportunities for people being artists. This has a purpose and a meaning in our community.
What is really profound is just how the smallest conversations with people can lead to something really, really huge like this, and just get the community having fun together and imagining what's possible.
We are social creatures, and we need to be a part of the social community too. Even if it's not just in the play here, but in the community of Fergus Falls and the surrounding areas. I've grown in sharing my life, my hope, my experiences with other people, praying with people when they need a loved one, socializing with other people when they're lonesome. That's just part of human life, giving encouragement to one another.
Visit Pioneer.org for more information on Postcards and other Pioneer productions. Pioneer On Demand has all of your favorite productions available to watch online at your convenience, including past episodes of Postcards.
What I love about being an artist the most is the flexibility it can give me, and the feeling that I'm true to myself for once. Growing up, art was not really acceptable in my family. It was not really looked upon as something to do, especially as a career. I'm from Australia originally. I was born in Sydney and grew up about 4 hours north of Sydney, kind of coastal rural community, and we moved several times growing up. So that's where I lived until I was about 18, 19 years old, and then moved to the States. My upbringing in Australia was very religious. It was very fundamental, very strict, and in my situation, my father was strict way more than my mother, and he felt like we had to look good on the outside, and that's what I feel like more than anything, that it's how it looked to other people. So a lot of my work ends up being about that. My recollection series is a lot about tradition. It's very much about the experiences I felt as a child growing up this way. Growing up, we're never supposed to dance or listen to music, but at school we had dance lessons. I felt like I was kind of alienated out, like I was different. Some of my sisters would have felt the same way, and I feel like we were bullied just because of the way we dressed, and I didn't choose to dress like that. So it's interesting to look back at that and remember feeling very hurt by it. But it's right now, so it turned into this painting no one really understands. They'll look at it and think, oh, it's a beautiful dance lesson. And then if you zoom right in, you can see that there's a little stick and there's this little gap because they did not want to physically touch me because I was weird or strange or something to them. So then my work is very much, I call it narrative vignettes of my past. So these little snippets, little pieces of memories that I had as a child. I tried to piece them together, and I tried to take out the ugly and make it beautiful. I think it's cathartic or therapeutic for me because for the most part I'm thinking about those memories, and I think about ways that I can look at them in a different light or adds something to them, and it helps me answer some of my questions that I had growing up, like why, and I think I'm finding answers. With my live wedding paintings, I started out by just randomly doing one for a friend. I was thinking, oh, what do we get them for a gift? And I'm like, I'll just bring my paints and my easel along, and maybe I can whip something up at their wedding. Let's give it a try. And I hadn't heard of this as a career or anything before, so I just did it. It was a big hit at that wedding. Basically, I show up, I just start with a blank canvas, and I start out with a sketch, just using some turpenoids and paint thinners. I'm working in oil paint. I'm sketching out the basic shapes so you're seeing some of the lights, and you'll see the basic fireplace, and always remembering that at some point when the guests arrive, they're going to start be punching in, so I've got to be careful how dark I go in there. Perspective-wise, I kind of skew things in a little just to make it work in the painting and make it a good composition. Generally, a lot of weddings tend to be more symmetrical because of the nature of how they set everybody up and they place it. You get this very repetitive, symmetrical composition, but all the lines are drawn right into the bride. My experience painting live has been, probably for the year, that year I did many art shows where I would paint live and demonstrate at every show, because that really worked for me. I found that just by painting live lets people see the process. They're somewhat wowed by it, and it helps engage them in, and just they see the process. I teach art classes also. I teach kids classes, adult classes, and I also am doing the new wine and paint night classes, which have been really popular. And I do community ed classes also, where I teach students, and it's more of a setting where, if they want to learn how to paint or the certain technique, like the wipe away technique, then they have the opportunity to do that. So it's more or less a true art setting versus the social event painting. I start from a blank canvas whenever I teach my classes. I never do a drawing to start with. I want them to realize that they did this themselves, and they can be really enriched by that. They walk away, and some people have told me that you've just boosted my self-confidence by 100,000 times. So I get really good positive feedback and comments, and it makes me feel good that I can contribute somehow to the community, like by teaching them and embracing them with the arts. I have 3 kids, and my husband is very supportive with my artwork. This summer has been really good because I've decided, okay, they're going to go to daycare for 3 days out of the week, and 2 days I get to be with them and do the mom-kid thing, and I want to get them into swimming lessons, and it's just, they embrace every little bit of me being an artist, and they just absolutely love it. Like, I'm painting down here, and the next thing one of them comes down and I want to paint. So I set up a little easel for them, and I don't make them paint if they don't want to. Like, if they come and ask me to paint, sure, I'll be like, totally go for it. I have lots of goals with my artwork, and as far as what I want to accomplish with my art and where I want it to take, I really don't know. I'm just happy letting it go with wherever it's going to go. I dream about painting these murals on walls somewhere, but then I'm like, I gotta slow down. I'm like, think about one thing at a time. So it's just very exciting for me. I love every bit of it.
Do you have an idea for the Postcards team? Email us, postcards@pioneer.org.
I originally got interested in candombe drumming when I met a Uruguayan jazz musician. I was working on a cruise ship, and one of the other musicians was from Uruguay. And I was talking to him about how I always wanted to learn more about Uruguayan music and maybe even travel to Uruguay. He gave me some recordings and showed me some of the basic rhythms, and that kind of wet my whistle and got me interested in it. And then from there, it sort of took off from there. I traveled to Montevideo, Uruguay with a grant from Partners of the Americas, and my project was to study candombe drumming and then to, as a follow-up, to bring it back to Montevideo, Minnesota and share it with the community here. And so I was fortunate to study with, among other people, Alvaro Salas, who is the director of the Candombe School of an organization called Mundo Afro.
Estoy con mucho asombro de encontrarme acá en Montevideo, Minnesota.
I'm very surprised to be here in Montevideo, Minnesota.
La verdad que no conocía.
The truth is that I didn't know about this city before.
Y cuando justamente me encuentro con el prócer José Artigas,
When I saw the statue here of Artigas,
ello para nosotros es mucho orgullo,
this is a huge source of pride for us.
y más para el afrodescendiente.
And even more for Afro-Uruguayans.
This would be the first time, definitely, that a master drummer has traveled to Minnesota. Without a doubt, actually. In Uruguay, there are a lot of people who may consider themselves master drummers, but really I think that's a very small community of people who are truly on that level of playing and understanding of the history and the culture that is candombe.
The relationship between Montevideo, Minnesota and Montevideo, Uruguay goes back a long time. At some point early on there was an exchange of flags between the two cities, and that sort of started the communication and the relationship. But then what really solidified the connection between the two was in the late 1940s when Montevideo, Minnesota received a gift of José Artigas, a statue of José Artigas, who was the national hero of Uruguay. This huge statue that's still in our main street today. Since that time, it's sort of each year, it seems like there's always new people coming and new projects being brought forth. Now music is the thing that I'm trying to promote as the next sort of piece of the exchange.
That's an incredible connection. For me, I see, when I think about parallels between Montevideo, Uruguay, and the United States in general, it's incredible to me that this connection exists. And I imagine it was based maybe on something very different than the music and art, especially Afro-Uruguayan art. So now that that's making its way here, I mean, that's just incredible.
The Fiesta Days parade this year was really special and unique because we had the first ever chamada drum performance of Uruguayan candombe. And so a chamada it literally means a call. And in Uruguay, a chamada is drumming, a spontaneous drumming performance that usually takes the form of a parade. And then there's also there's official parades where it's more formal and people get dressed up, and then that's where we add dancers. And
Candombe is Afro-Uruguayan music, dance, art, culture, what I found in interviewing and just experiencing that music for 9 months while I lived there was that what is central and defines candombe are these 3 drums. That without these drums, you might be talking about some other African-based art form. But when you mention candombe, you're talking about drums and how they have inspired Uruguay in a lot of ways. What I think is important about bringing candombe here is just one, raising awareness of, one, I think, the music, the culture, but also I think the overarching theme for this, and especially important to the United States, may be that Montevideo, Minnesota could be a catalyst to sort of propel these kind of discussions, even just race relations in general, and seeing how music is a vehicle to kind of bring communities together sometimes. That's what's beautiful about this being here, is maybe Montevideo gets us started talking in a healthier way again.
Para mí es importante estar acá.
It's important for me to be here because,
y transmitir lo que es la cultura afro.
And it's important for me to transmit what is Afro-Uruguayan culture.
Para ustedes y para mí es algo histórico.
Because for everybody from Montevideo, Minnesota, and for him, it's something historic.
Y es un gusto.
And it's a pleasure.
Un honor.
It's an honor.
Traer el arte.
To bring Afro-Uruguayan art
acá, Montevideo,
to
Minnesota.
Montevideo, Minnesota. Musically, I love candombe because I'm a drummer, and I come from, my first background was in rock music and in jazz, and I've always been fascinated with rhythm, and recently was getting involved in world music, and so I discovered candombe, and it instantly was just very funky and very organic and very powerful, and that's why musically it's so powerful to me. And then I think it took on another dimension in terms of being meaningful, just with the connection that I have through the sister city relationship with Montevideo, Uruguay.
This program on Pioneer Public Television is funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund, with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4th, 2008. Additional support provided by Mark and Margaret Yackel Julien in honor of Shalom Hill Farm, a nonprofit rural education retreat center in a beautiful prairie setting near Windham in southwestern Minnesota. ShalomHillFarm.org. The Arrowwood Resort and Conference Center, your ideal choice for Minnesota resorts offering luxury townhomes, 18 holes of golf, Darling Reflection Spa, Big Splash Water Park, and much more. Alexandria, Minnesota, a relaxing vacation or great location for an event. Explore alex.com. Easy to get to, hard to leave.